All right, I will call to order the International Falls Economic Development Authority. Note the time at 6:10. All of the members of the EDA are present. Thank you. First item for consideration would be the approval of the minutes from January 22nd. Chair would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Commissioner Kraus. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Anderson. Discussion on or interest in the minutes of the last meeting. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is audience. Anyone in the audience? None. We'll move to our accounts payable and our financial reports. As you see, we have no claims at this time. Administrator Anderson, do you want to go through the financial reports or the accounts?
Briefly, for the board's information, we have two sets of reports. You'll see that there's a balance sheet that's dated December 31st, 2018 at the top. That's stapled together. There's a secondary sheet. That's for Fund 208. There's a second sheet that's also has a balance sheet as the first page for the multimodal district. That's Fund 404. And so you can just see what the total assets are in there, as well as the other financial statements. We've included the year-end 2018 information because when we had our January meeting, that information wasn't prepared and available. So we've included that. And then the second set of papers that you'll see there are dated March 31st, 2019 on the balance sheet. The second stapled set is March 31st, 2019 for the balance sheet for Fund 404. And that would be the most current information through month-end March. So.
All right, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the financial reports as presented.
So moved.
Commissioner Kraus. Commissioner Broller. Any discussion on the financial reports or anything that you'd like to make note of?
Presently, no.
Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the financial report state by saying aye. 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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. First item under item 6 is to consider the IFEDA resolution to make bylaw changes to delete Article 5, which is the advisory board. Motion to accept the resolution would be in order.
Second.
We have a motion by Councillor Buller, second by Anderson. Discussion? Please.
I just want to note that although I agree to this in principle, I feel like we have an opportunity to work with the Chamber of Commerce, given our end of the year budgeting process that we went through in December, and then rehashing of all of that, and then the Chamber membership showing up in force to our Committee of the Whole meeting, our final budget meeting, and then showing up again to our City Council meeting. I just feel that although I agree that the advisory board as it's written does not necessarily fit our current needs, I feel that a cooperation with the Chamber or Voyage Forward or one of these other entities would not be the worst thing on the planet. We have a large amount of money sitting here that we had 0 claims from our meeting in January until our meeting now. So it's just sitting there, and I feel like we should be doing something with it. We have a gentleman that's been coming to the meetings and contacting us, and other groups going. I feel like we should do something. I don't know what that something is. I have no proposals at this time. I just feel that at some point here we're going to need to do something. It's just my opinion on the matter.
Appreciate those comments. Anyone else have comments on the resolution?
Mr. President.
Please.
Just a comment to Commissioner Krause's point here. In the draft resolution approving the amendment to the bylaws and deleting Article 5 that removes the advisory board input to the EDA, based on the conversation that we had at the January meeting, I did include a whereas provision that the board will continue to seek input and advice on economic development issues from the Chamber of Commerce listed specifically, as well as its membership, and then any others that, and I know that all of you do outreach efforts with a number of special interest groups as well as individuals. And so economic development is not a singular kind of isolated activity. I think everybody in the community, in a lot of respects, is an ambassador of their community. And so if we can get people to promote and speak up about the value of being in International Falls and what we can contribute to, or what our community can offer for economic vitality and expansion, we need to do that. And so I specifically made that notation in this agenda in anticipation and in recognition of what this board talked about at the January meeting. I would say that regarding the Chamber of Commerce, I try to attend the Economic Development Committee meetings that the Chamber has, and they meet on I think it's the second Thursday of the month, typically at 7:30 in the morning. So if there's activities or information I learn, I try to share individually with members on the council, but primarily with the mayor and to a lesser extent, Commissioner Droba, and both of you are on KEDA. So I think previously this group has said that we want to focus our economic development efforts through the KEDA and not so much through our EDA. So we have a very limited budget on an annual basis. It's really $5,000 primarily for consulting and expenses, as well as our professional services and some office expenses.
Any other discussion on this? I would just like to say that I have served in this role as president in the past, and I did probably meet with the last EDA advisory board that was active. We met here at 8:30 in the morning. We met for a better part of 2 years. We struggled to get a quorum of the advisory board. These are some of our best and brightest people in our community that are active in so many other roles. So it was difficult to get the group here. There was some changes that have happened through the group. We would have, towards the end of that period of time, we did lose members of the advisory board to resignation or to the ending of their term, and we put files up, or we put out asking for applicants for that board, where we did not receive any new applicants. And that was the point where we kind of just quit meeting because we couldn't meet a quorum. We couldn't move forward. I don't believe that board has met in 2 years. So I saw a ton of promise in what we could have done, but just timing did not work out the way that I would have hoped to see that board go. The focus of the EDA of the city has somewhat shifted over to KEDA and have a more regional approach to our economic development. Again, International Falls is in the county. Sometimes the county forgets that. County residents forget that. Sometimes International Falls residents forget that. But to have a more regional approach, because what's good for the county is obviously going to be good for International Falls, and just time has changed how we should move forward on this. So I don't want to spend any more time, but I do know that this was a very hard one for me to get to, and here we are. So any other discussion on the resolution to amending our bylaws? Hearing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Director's Secretary report, the annual shovel-ready certification report. And Kyle Jordan at the Minnesota State, just for information purposes. It shows what we have, what is available, and what is being marketed on our behalf. Anyone have any comments or concerns on the shovel-ready certification report?
President,
Please.
I would just add that they require a report from us annually, so that's what's on the front page, and I copied some of the other information they have online about our shovel-ready site. And so there's, I think, a couple of things that could be revised on here, but I provided this for board information, and we submit this on an annual basis, just participating in that.
All right. Any additional discussion on the shovel-ready certification report? None. We will go to the deed, transportation, economic development of infrastructure, the annual report. Could you walk us through that one, Administrator?
Yeah, Mr. President, again, that's part of the Transportation Economic Development Infrastructure Grant that we received several years ago to extend utilities to the multimodal distribution center site. And for some of the newer members, that's the site where we extended gas, water, sewer, and electric utilities to the property at the northeast intersection of Highway 155 and Moonlight Rock Road. There's about 77 acres gross there, about 44 of it I think is developable. And so a portion of it is in the city, the western portion, and we've extended utilities and actually a rail spur in there using this grant from the Department of Employment and Economic Development. And as a result of that grant, we need to report annually about our work there. I don't know why there's multiple pages of that. So anyways, that's provided for your information again. And as part of that, receiving those grant funds, the intent was for us to create 55 new jobs at that site in 5 years. And we have not been very successful in doing that. You know, as some of you might remember, we had a development agreement with a developer to do an aquaponics farm out there. And for a number of reasons that didn't move forward, and this board terminated the development agreement with the party that was proposing to do that. So we had also met with Larry Keep about potentially locating his facility out on that property, and that didn't move forward because of some of the standards that we had suggested to him in the proposed development agreement. So he's other options. So that's where we're at, and again, that's an annual report that we have to submit in January. So this is my response to them.
And then there was correspondence in your package, one from the Employment and Economic Development on Northwest Region, and there you go.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
If I could, just the last one, it says, is Minnesota making the grade?
Yes.
I made a copy of that, and to save money, I did it in black and white, but I highlighted a particular sentence that I just wanted to draw your attention to, and I wasn't aware of this. It's on the second to the last page. It's the last paper page. It says Google calling. If you look at the last paragraph there, it says Minnesota is currently home to 33 data centers, 27 of which are in the Minneapolis area, according to the tracking service. Companies that build data centers in Minnesota of at least 25,000 square feet which ours proposed in this community, as you know, is going to be larger than that. And it was proposed in 2 phases. My recollection is that the first phase was going to be about $76 million. And it says if you invest at least $30 million in the first 4 years, qualify for 20-year tax breaks on the purchase of computers and servers, cooling and energy equipment, as well as energy use and software. So I just wanted to point that out because that was an incentive I wasn't aware of. And if this project does move forward, I know that the county board, I think, extended the development agreement from March to August. There is some value to being in Minnesota because of these incentives, and I will try and bring that to the attention of the person moving forward. This before. It's interesting, and I think you might have, any one of you might have heard that I think Google was looking at doing a large data center in the city of Becker, and it was going to be a significant move forward there.
We're colder than Becker.
For me?
We're colder than Becker.
Yes, we are. You know, one of the interesting things, and I visited with the mayor about this a little bit, is that Becker used to have, and I believe it probably still does, the lowest tax rate of all the cities in the state, and it's because of the investment that is in that community with the Sherco coal-fired plant, but I think also, I'm not sure if the nuclear power plant is in Becker proper too, but they just have a very low tax rate. So locating a facility like this, just by virtue of the fact that the tax rate is so low, they're not going to have to pay as much in property taxes for the same investment of any other city in the state. I did read that they're trying to be energy self-sufficient with solar to try and fund their energy costs at this data center.
Any other business to come before us? All right, we will adjourn at 6:27.